Hello everyone, my name is Stacy Wheatley. Thank you for joining us today. We are True Health Diagnostics, and the webinar this afternoon is Food and Mood, How Food Choices Affect Your Mood. I'm just going to do a quick check, sound check. If y'all can type in your questions box, let me know that you can hear me. We'll continue on. Questions? Okay, great. Good. Y'all can hear me. Thanks, guys. This webinar is being recorded, and the same link you use to register can be used to listen to the recording. We'll continue on with some housekeeping stuff while we're waiting for others to trickle into the webinar. There's also a PDF of the slides available by request. If you want to have the slides emailed to you, let me know in the questions box. I'll be using the email address you registered with unless you request I send them to a different one. Also, as we go, if you have questions, please enter them in the questions box. If it's something quick and I can answer as I go, I will try to do so. If not, I may save them to the end just to make sure we get through all the slides today, okay? The webinar should conclude with time saved to answer your questions, and again, it'll be recorded. So if you have to walk away or you miss something, by Friday I will have uploaded the recording and you can listen to it again at your leisure. All right, again, I'm Stacy Wheatley. I'm one of the health consultants with True Health Diagnostics. My job is to help patients understand what their labs mean and what to do about them. And our webinars are open to our former patients or current patients, hopefully future patients, and the public. We do advertise this on our Facebook page. So these are free, and services with the health consultants. Some one-on-one counseling is included in your lab report for 12 months from the last time your blood was drawn. So that's a nice service courtesy of True Health. So that's who I am. I'm a registered dietitian and licensed in the state of South Carolina, registered nationally. So I'm not just some Joe Blow off the street or someone who got their credentials out of a Cracker Jack box or online. So registered dietitians have been to school for nutrition. I tell folks I love food so much that I majored in it, and we did an internship and passed a credentialing exam and maintain continuing education to keep us up to snuff. So that's who I am, what we're doing here, and let's move on to talk more about food and mood. Today we're going to discuss what foods and beverages can have a negative impact on your mood, maybe some things that we want to take out, reduce, or eliminate from our diets, or some foods that can have a positive impact on our mood, things that you can add. So I always like to work with folks not only on what they need to take away from their diet, but what you can add to it to have positive outcomes. And towards the end, we'll discuss the benefits of some vitamins and minerals, other food sources, how they affect how we feel, and maybe some genetic testing that True Health offers that can shed some light on the vitamin and mineral subject. Okay, so potential mood busters. Probably the most abused drug in the country right now is caffeine. Coffee, Red Bull, energy drinks, tea, diet pills, all those things. They might make you feel good for a temporary basis, but ultimately they can be a mood buster. Alcohol is the second one, also very widely abused. Sugar and processed foods, also very widely abused. We take all these things to try to make us feel better, but ultimately all of these things combined can make you feel worse. And soft drinks, especially diet soft drinks. So I get that question a lot. Well, is diet really better, or are they both equally bad? So we'll discuss that too. Caffeine, again, most commonly consumed psychoactive drug. It changes brain function and alters mood, and takes effect within an hour of consumption and stays in the system for over 10 hours. I was discussing my sleep patterns with my doctor and said I wasn't sleeping very well, and she said to cut off all caffeine by 3 p.m., so no more caffeine after that. And then I read this, and if it stays in your system for over 10 hours, maybe I should cut back as far as noon if bedtime's at 10 o'clock or so, because then that sabotages your sleep. Some are more sensitive to the effects of caffeine than others. It triggers the release of cortisol. Cortisol is that stress hormone, that fight or flight hormone, which increases hunger and carbohydrate cravings. And actually, cortisol can release blood sugar into the blood, which helps your fight or flight response. And then when that blood sugar is gone, it creates a low and causes a carbohydrate craving. Can make you eat more. And negative effects: increases anxiety, bothers or messes with your sleep, causes insomnia, nervousness, restlessness, upset stomach, increased heart rate, and blood pressure. So how much is too much? Up to 400 milligrams per day is probably safe for most adults, but there's no tolerable intake, or no recommendations for children, no safe level for children. They should probably avoid it completely. 100 milligrams or less per day during adolescence. Might take a look at that. We have a chart on the next page, and assess how much caffeine our adolescents are drinking. 200 milligrams or less during pregnancy. So how much do you consume daily? How many cups of coffee are there? Is it a giant tumbler? Is it an 8-ounce cup? Things like that. And would you benefit from cutting back or cutting out caffeine? But to do so, you want to do it gradually, not right away. If you're used to a high level of caffeine intake, you might go into withdrawals and have some irritability there. So every 8 ounces of coffee has 800 to 200 milligrams. That's a pretty wide range of caffeine there. So if 8 ounces has 80 milligrams in there and you're drinking 24 ounces, that's a significant amount of caffeine, even more so if it's a higher caffeine content coffee. Espresso, you think espresso, you think has lots of caffeine, 1 shot, 2 shot, they tend to add up. Then Red Bull, you would think Red Bull has, gets credit for having a lot of caffeine, but it's really got as much as potentially 8 ounces of coffee, and people tend to abuse this a good bit. Black tea, 14 to 70 milligrams in 8 ounces. Excedrin, commonly taken for migraines, 65 milligrams. So I'm not going to read all of these to you, but if you consider all the different sources, if you have more than one source in a day, they tend to add up. So we may think of coffee in the morning as our only source of caffeine, but we may be getting these trickling in different places. If you notice, Mountain Dew down there has more caffeine than a Coke. So a lot of folks, I have a patient who relies on Mountain Dew for their caffeine, and actually it was a couple, and they consume somewhere between 8 and 10 cans a day. So yeah, that's a significant amount of caffeine, as well as a significant amount of sugar, which we also said is going to have a negative effect on mood. So alcohol, why do you drink, or why would one drink? Well, because it helps relax you, makes you feel better. It has a very temporary positive impact on mood as it increases serotonin. Serotonin is that feel-good hormone. Serotonin is implicated in depression. That's why we take serotonin reuptake inhibitors to leave that serotonin in the synapse longer to get the positive effects of serotonin. So we're after this to make us feel better. However, the increases are only temporary. Long term, it actually depletes serotonin, which can increase anxiety and depression and confound or contribute to addiction because you're constantly seeking that feel better hormone, that serotonin. It also disturbs sleep. It'll help you go to sleep initially, but it does not help you stay asleep. Oftentimes you'll wake up and you don't actually get into that deep sleep that you need to restore and recover from the day. And it affects the mood the day following consumption. So the next day is pivotal. So less is best. Recommendations are for 1 drink a day for women and no more than 2 drinks a day for men. 1 drink is considered 12 ounces of beer, 8 ounces of malt liquor, 5 ounces of wine, or 1.5 ounces of 80 proof distilled liquor or spirits. And heavy drinking is defined as 8 drinks or more per week for women, 15 or more per week for men. So this is another thing, consider how much caffeine you're drinking as your upper and how much alcohol you're drinking as a downer, and compare that to the recommendations here. See if they need to be tweaked. Sugar and processed foods. Processed foods are food-like products that have very little nutritional benefit and are typically higher in calories. Think of things on the inside of the grocery stores, things with long lists of ingredients. Those ingredients are listed in order of weight, so the sooner sugar shows up, the higher the content of sugar that's in that product. Long-term exposure to a diet high in sugar and processed foods increases risk for depression. Again, that sugar, that high, makes you feel good. That's what we're after, that serotonin, dopamine, things like that. Makes you feel good temporarily, and can be addicted. We're not necessarily addicted to some chemical of sugar. It's how it makes us feel. It's the secondary reaction, the hormones that are released in response to it that cause the addictive patterns. Sugar in processed foods, like I said, increases levels of dopamine, and this is why people say they're an emotional eater. And comfort foods tend to be high in sugar or highly processed. Processed things like pasta, macaroni, cookies, ice cream, things like that that cause a high level release of dopamine. That's why we're emotional eaters. That's why we're addicted to sugars and things like that. Sugar and processed carbohydrates, white bread, sugary cereals, crackers, chips can cause unstable blood sugar levels. So if we reach for these kinds of things to snack on, a bag of chips, a candy bar, donuts, vending machine type things, they will cause a rapid increase in blood sugar, or a spike, and then it'll drop down and plummet. And if you're experiencing some insulin resistance or pre-diabetes, this is going to cause a refractory period where your low blood sugar makes you crave sugar more. So you're going to return to the snack machine feeling hungry or feeling cranky later because your blood sugar has dropped too low. High blood sugar symptoms, fatigue, low blood sugar symptoms, anxiety, irritability, fatigue, confusion, hunger and nausea, anger or sadness, sleepiness. So the sugar content of the diet could be causing some of the mood complaints, or the lows, the sadness, the irritability, things like that. So soft drinks, a study of over 263,000 adults ages 50 to 71 showed that people who drank more than 4 cans of soda per day were more likely to be diagnosed with depression. So not only in soft drinks do you have caffeine, but you also have sugar that's playing a role with your mood. So, and the risk is actually greater in those who drink diet soda. So if you're someone who has anxiety or depression, things like that, you might want to try to get off the sodas to see if that helps. So we talked about mood busters. These are mood boosters. Omega-3 fatty acids, commonly found in fish oils, or you can get it out of flaxseed oil, things like that, chia seeds, things like that. Balanced meals and snacks with good carbohydrates, good fats, and lean protein. Good carbohydrates would be, in my opinion, more natural carbohydrates like sweet potato and fruit and things like that. Some folks consider good carbohydrates whole grains, sprouted whole wheat breads, gluten-free carbohydrates like beans, peas, corn, rice, things like that. Something that's in its whole natural state and high in fiber, rather than processed carbohydrates like pastas and things like that. Instant potatoes, au gratin potatoes, things that come in a box and have a long list of ingredients. Good fats, not all fats are bad. There's monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats that are considered good fats. They have good effects on your cholesterol levels. That is things like nuts, natural nut butters, olives, olive oils, avocado, even coconut oil, and to some degree, and then lean proteins, ones that aren't extremely processed. So balanced meals and snacks, I always recommend a good healthy fat and or protein with meals, so that the meal is not all carbs. Otherwise, you're just going to have a rapid blood sugar spike and then a crash afterwards. This is why I don't like cereal. Cereal is carbs, milk has carbs. You throw some fruit on there, that's more carbs. So that's just a carbohydrate bomb, and you're setting your day up, for a downfall in your blood sugar shortly after. So good fats and lean protein every meal. Lots of folks like the Mediterranean diet lately, heavy on the fruits and vegetables, and next the whole grains, then lean proteins and healthy fats and things, and saving very little room for sugars and sweets and things. Vitamin D, a lot of us don't realize that we're very deficient in vitamin D. It's very common. I would say 90% of my patients are low in vitamin D. Vitamin D is important to sleep and your mood. So you might want to have your vitamin D checked with your doctor or with us. Selenium-rich foods, that's a mineral. Foods rich in folate and vitamin B12. We'll talk more about this in a little while as it relates to an MTHFR mutation. Water. We are chronically dehydrated. Most folks don't drink nearly enough water every day. We've always heard 8-ounce glasses of water, and that sounds like a lot in itself. But that's only 64 ounces, and typically I recommend half your weight in water, in ounces of water a day. So 64 ounces is really only appropriate for someone who weighs 128 pounds. Not many of us are that small. And then eating breakfast daily can help with your mood as well. So omega-3 fatty acids, these are called essential fatty acids. Essential meaning we can't make them ourselves, so they must be consumed, must be obtained through the diet. These can help reduce inflammation in your lab reports. Your markers of inflammation are fibrinogen, myeloperoxidase, HSCRP, LPPLA2. Supplementing with omega-3 fatty acids can help improve those. It affects blood clotting. Omega-3 fatty acids can help thin the blood, which is why if you're going in for surgery, your doctors will tell you to come off these for a week or two prior to surgery date. It may also be encouraged for folks that have a stroke risk or something. They build cell membranes in the brain and other organs. Fish consumption has been linked to better mental health. More omega-3s could therefore mean less depression. Lower levels of fish consumption after childbirth have been linked to higher rates of postpartum depression. So start eating that fish, ladies. You've been told during pregnancy to hold back because of the mercury in fish, but after the baby's born, try to increase that. New research also suggests that it may protect against Alzheimer's disease, dementia, gradual memory loss associated with aging. This is because these fatty acids help the myelin sheath, I believe, on the nerves and the coating of those nerves. So where to get omega-3s? It's best to try to get them from your diet, but let's face it, that's a lot of fish to eat, or lots of plant sources to get it from. So a lot of us will supplement with fish oils. There's 3 types and 2 sources of these healthy fatty acids. The ALA, that's a plant source, and that's found in flaxseed, chia seeds, and walnuts. Now, ALA, in order for the body to metabolize it, it's going to have to break it down into EPA and DHA, what we're really after. And we vary. There's a variability in how well we do at breaking down ALA. So if you take 1,000 milligrams of flaxseed oil and I take 1,000 milligrams of flaxseed oil, you may be better at metabolizing it than I am. So it's kind of hard to standardize a dose of ALA for folks. So usually, unless you're a vegetarian or vegan, I would say, you can use, or you don't tolerate fish oils, I would say flaxseed, chia seeds, walnuts are good supplements to what's found in fish oil. So I usually say fish oil first if you can, then the ALA or the plant sources. Kind of like a bonus omega-3. Now, EPA and DHA found in fish, oysters, shrimp, algae, and other marine life. So another option for vegans or vegetarians is algae. Algae oil is getting more popular lately, and you can find that on the market. I know Nordic Natural makes an algae oil. I believe it's in liquid form. I haven't tasted it, but it's an option for vegetarians or vegans. Best sources of EPA and DHA, fatty fish like salmon, sardines, herring, and tuna. Not all fish is created equal as far as the EPA and DHA goes. Again, there's a wide variability. So salmon, sardines, herring, things like that are kind of like the rock stars of the fatty fish world. However, when you think of tilapia, or cod or mahi, all those white flaky fish, those are fine as far as weight management goes, but considering it a therapeutic source of omega-3s would be a bad idea. So when people encourage more fish, we're really talking about the fattier fish, salmon, tuna, herring, things like that. And then aim for a minimum of 2 servings of fatty fish per week. 1 serving is about 3.5 ounces. And in my diet, I like to do a salmon fillet once a week and tuna salad once a week. And that's my 2 sources. And then I also supplement with omega-3s. Now, before we move on, As far as omega-3 goes, if you are going to supplement with omega-3s, it's a huge market, and they are made in two forms primarily: ethyl esters and triglyceride form. Ethyl ester form is cheaper. It's more commonly found on the shelf. You kind of have to look closely on your fish oil to see if it's ethyl ester or triglyceride. But creating the triglyceride form is an extra step, and it's more expensive. So you'll find the triglyceride form usually is more expensive, but that's easier absorbed by the body. Otherwise, the ethyl esters, your body's going to have to re-assimilate or package them back into triglyceride form, and that's an extra step your body has to take, so it may affect how efficient you are at using these omega-3s or getting the most out of your supplement. So triglyceride form is usually best. Again, I mentioned Nordic Natural. I've been a fan of theirs for years because they're easy to find at on the internet, Amazon, Vitamin Shop, and theirs are triglyceride form. I had a sweet patient of mine check the shelves at Costco. She found a wild Alaskan salmon oil that is a triglyceride form, and it was only $14. The Nordic Naturals run about $30, $50 for the double concentrated ones. A note on concentration. You want to aim for about 1,000 milligrams of EPA and DHA a day if you're supplementing with fish oils. And a 1,000 milligram pill is not the same as 1,000 milligrams EPA and DHA. EPA and DHA are in the fish oil, but usually it's only about 30% of the pill. So say one pill has 300 milligrams. To get 1,000, you have to take about 3 of them, at least 3 of them. So the standard dose on your fish oil is usually not enough. We usually need to take 3 or 4 fish oils a day. And then when you get into things like krill oil is so low concentrated. In order to get enough, get a therapeutic dose out of those, you have to take about 10 of them a day, and then it's no longer cost effective. So that's a food for thought as far as the supplements go. Balanced meals and snacks. Again, you always want to have protein and or healthy fat with a meal so that all of the calories aren't coming from carbs. If it's a large volume of carbs in the meal, it's going to create a blood sugar high and then potentially a blood sugar low and then some cravings afterwards. This is a good way to try to balance your meals. The plate method, portion plate, a quarter of your meal from protein, a quarter of your meal from carbohydrates, bread, cereals, pastas, rice, grains, fruit, beans, peas, corn, things like that. My preference is fruit or sweet potato. After that, whole grain brown rice, a natural carbohydrate like corn or beans or peas, and then after that, you know, if you're being served or choosing a processed food such as pasta, noodles, crackers, breads, things like that, again, only quarter of your plate. Now, half of your plate in vegetables. I call these real vegetables, your non-starchy vegetables, salad-type vegetables, broccoli, cauliflower, asparagus, zucchini, and squash, the yellow summer squash, tomatoes, green beans, real vegetables. The starchy vegetables, beans, peas, and corn, remember, we're saving that as a carbohydrate. Now, people always say, well, what about carrots? I heard carrots had a lot of sugar in them. You know, you might get 5 grams in a cup of green beans. You might get 8 to 9 grams in a cup of carrots. So they're more non-starchy than starchy. So I wouldn't be too scared of them. So that's a good way. I use this for my patients that in the South that eat a lot of meat in threes. If you go to a restaurant, you know, you pick your meat, but of your 3 vegetable choices, only let one of them be a starch or a carbohydrate. So instead of getting, you know, the meat and then you get rice and macaroni and mashed potatoes, believe this happens, you want to pick one of the rice or the potatoes or the macaroni and then opt for green beans or the stewed okra and tomatoes or even coleslaw if there's no other option, because it's not a carb. So the Mediterranean diet, another option to help with your mood. This is high in fish, those omega-3s, and plant-based foods. The plant-based foods are going to be higher in vitamins and minerals and water and fiber and all that good stuff. This diet is also low in sugar and packaged and processed foods. So you see down there you've got the generous servings. It's kind of like the old food guide pyramid. Generous servings of fruits and vegetables at the bottom. You can overdo it on fruit, so I usually only recommend 2 to 3 servings of fruit a day. Then whole grains there on the second level. Proteins, mostly fish, eggs, cheese, things like that there. Healthy fats then closer to the top, the olive oils, I think that's balsamic vinegar, nuts, olives, things like that. And then saving sweets for treats every now and then at the very top there. Vitamin D. So low levels of vitamin D have been linked to depression. We think, you know, vitamin D is the sunshine vitamin. We're outside or we live in a sunny climate. You probably get enough. But honestly, I'm in South Carolina, and I see most of our patients come in with a vitamin D level of in the 20s. You want to be above 30, and the range will vary from 30 to 100 nanograms per milliliter. So there's a wide buffer in there. You can supplement typically until it gets up to about 60 or 70, and then you might want to back down. It's unclear exactly how vitamin D and depression are related, and it's not commonly found in many foods, but some foods are fortified with it. We do make vitamin D when exposed to sunlight, but when we supplement with vitamin D, there's 2 different forms, D2 and D3, and typically you want to supplement with the gel form of D3. So if your vitamin D is less than 30, you may want to talk to your doctor about supplementing with it. It's very easy. It's cheap, cheap therapy. You can get it over the counter at CVS, Rite Aid, Walgreens, Costco is where we get ours. I believe we bought vitamin D3 2000 IU. There's like 600 pills for $8. So 2,000 is a good maintenance dose usually, but if you're already low, you might supplement with 5,000 or more, or your doctor may prescribe prescription level vitamin D. So food sources of vitamin D, cod liver oil, man, yeah, that's not around much these days, but you could take it. It's got about 1,360 IU of vitamin D. Swordfish is a pretty good source. Again, salmon, those fatty fish. Vitamin D is fat soluble, so it's helpful if you consume it with a source of fat, like the fat in salmon. Tuna, light, canned in water, drained 3 ounces, and then some fortified sources like milk and yogurt. I typically don't recommend a whole lot of milk and yogurt because of the sugar content of those, but it could be a source for you. Sardines, and then 1 egg, 1 large egg, and the vitamin D is found in the yolk, not in the egg white, so you do want to eat the whole egg if you're trying to get more vitamin D in your diet. Selenium, it's an essential trace element. If you remember essential amino acids, essential elements, essential fatty acids, the word essential means you can't make it, so you have to eat it. Several studies report that low selenium is associated with poor mood. Nuts are a good source of selenium, particularly Brazil nuts. Coincidentally, nuts are also good heart-healthy fat, good source of fiber, so nuts are a good thing to have in the diet on a regular basis. I recommend them daily, honestly. A handful is proportionate to your body, and that'll be about all you need. So nuts and seeds, particularly Brazil nuts, seafood, oysters, clams, sardines, crab, saltwater fish, freshwater fish, all good sources of selenium, beans and legumes, lean meat, dairy products, and whole grains. Folate and B12, the connection between these. B12 and folate are crucial for neurotransmitters like serotonin, things that make the feel-good hormone. We can test for 2 different mutations of the MTHFR gene. That's methyl tetrahydrite folate reductase, I believe. And this may indicate the need for more folate. When we eat folate and B12, they're not necessarily useful to us. Our body has to convert them or activate them, methylate them in order for them to be useful. The methylated forms of folate and B12 are the active forms that affect how your blood clots, may affect neurotransmitters like serotonin, things like that. So a deficiency in these things, if you have this mutation and you're not converting folate and B12 to the active forms, you may be consuming enough folate or the recommended amount of folate, but if your body's not turning it on, you're going to be deficient. So folate and B12 deficiencies can lead to high levels of homocysteine, and homocysteine is linked to depression. Homocysteine is also linked to cardiovascular risk, blood clots, and strokes. So that's another lab that we can check. We can check your MTHFR genetics and check your homocysteine and see if you're not metabolizing B12 and folate. Low levels of B12 and folate are also common causes of anemia. Symptoms of that are fatigue and weakness and irritability. Okay. So what to do if you do have these MTHFR mutations? You want to discuss your options with your doctor. Check the folate and B12 levels, check your homocysteine levels, and if things are off, you might supplement with something called L-methylfolate over the counter. There's multiple brands of those things, or your doctor may even prescribe you a prescription L-methylfolate. Usually that's called Deplin or Metinex. They're originally designed for diabetic neuropathy and mood disorders, I believe. So a lot of times if we're taking traditional therapies, traditional drugs for depression or anxiety, we might be missing the mark. It might actually be these B vitamin deficiencies caused by your genetics. This MTHFR gene is implicated in Alzheimer's. I mentioned depression. It's also implicated in miscarriages. So if you have a personal or a family history of these things and mood disorders, it might be this MTHFR gene. Food sources of folate. I call folate the beans and greens vitamin. We want to be careful with beans because they're starch. They do have some protein, but they do contain an awful lot of starch, which will turn into sugar. Other sources, leafy greens, the dark green salad vegetables, spinach, kale, all the artisanal leafy greens, asparagus, broccoli, Brussels, okra, cauliflower, avocado, nuts and seeds, papayas and oranges. Again, fruit comes with a lot of sugar, so only 2 to 3 servings a day is probably necessary. Also beets and bell peppers. Sources of B12, we're back to the fish and shellfish, beef and poultry, eggs, milk, cheese, and yogurt. So a lot of the B12 sources are animal-based. So if you're following a very heavy plant-based diet, you may need to be supplementing with some B12. Water. Again, it's very important to drink plenty of water during the day to prevent dehydration. A lot of times we are dehydrated, we're thirsty, and we confuse that for hunger, and we feel like we need to eat, even though you're not physically hungry. Even mild dehydration can cause poor mood, loss of focus, and fatigue. Drinking more water is one of the simplest ways to improve all of your problems, in my opinion, as far as the fatigue and the moodiness and the cravings and things like that that you might have. It's not always the easiest things to do, thing to do, but it's one of the most simple ways that you can improve your nutrition, your health. So personally, my goal is to drink at least 75 ounces of water a day. I consume 3 of my little tumblers a day to make sure I'm getting all that. It's kind of hard. You have to stay on top of it. And I also like to tell folks, even if your exercise isn't on point, your diet isn't on point, you can typically still drink water. So look at that and say, I'm still doing something. I'm drinking more water. So again, everybody's needs are different. Typically, I recommend half of your weight in ounces of water a day, which can come out to about 8 to 12 cups of fluid. But it's different for folks, and especially if you have a different activity level, you lose a lot of sweat every day, live in a hot climate. But they should be calorie-free, and they should be sugar-free. And a lot of folks are into these, flavored waters, the ice type beverages, but those are artificial sweeteners, and artificial sweeteners can still make the body think that there's something sweet present, despite the fact that they're non-caloric. They may make your brain think something sweet because it feels good, it tastes good. I'm going to release some insulin. It can cause the blood sugar low and then start a craving, make you want to eat. Urine should be the color of light lemonade. If the urine starts to get darker in color, it's a good sign that you need to hydrate. So is breakfast really the most important meal of the day? Eating breakfast daily is associated with improved mood, feeling calm, having more energy, better memory. A healthy breakfast will have a combination of the 3 following things: protein, healthy fat, and healthy carbs. My personal favorite breakfast is, I have 2, but one of them is sweet potato hash browns. I dice and roast sweet potatoes. I'll have a nitrate-free bacon with that and a fried egg. So I've got my protein in the egg, and I've got my healthy carbs in the sweet potatoes. Got a little fun with my bacon. It's not necessarily a healthy fat. You could add avocado to that. That's delicious. You can fry the egg in some coconut oil. So that's an example of a good breakfast there. I also like to do a slice of Ezekiel bread toasted with some avocado smeared on that. A slice of that nitrate-free natural bacon, and a fried egg. So kind of an open-faced sandwich. And that ticks all the boxes. Eggs for protein, healthy fat in the avocado, healthy carbs in the Ezekiel sprouted organic bread. All right. Elevate your mood foods: magnesium, tryptophan, folate, and B vitamins. Can help produce more serotonin, endorphins, fight fatigue, reduce nervousness, anxiety, and depression. The omega-3 fatty acids, these are building blocks for your nervous system. fiber, protein, complex carbohydrates, they take longer to break down, so they stabilize your blood sugar longer. No crashes or big jumps in variability in your blood sugar. And then iron helps carry blood, oxygen, and carry oxygen and nutrients in your blood, and produces energy and fights fatigue. So in conclusion, our mood can influence the food and beverage choices we make, and conversely, the food and beverage choices we make can affect our mood. So it's kind of a vicious cycle. These can have both positive and negative effects. Focus on the big picture and overall lifestyle. You know, if you're looking for a single food you need to eat to boost your mood today, you probably didn't find it. There's a lot of different things we could work on. So be it reducing caffeine, reducing alcohol, increasing water, increasing healthy fats, things like that. Talk to a healthcare professional for more specific guidance on making diet or lifestyle changes. If you have a lab report with True Health or let's see, formerly with True Health or HDL, we'll counsel, I think, on the last 2 months of HDL of last year. Call us. I'll give you the number here in a bit, and we can walk through that report with you. Resources here. There's 2 pages of websites and resources for you if you're interested. 3 pages. And if you have specific questions or want to email me, that address is swheatley@truehealthdiag.com. And please join us in September for our next webinars, Overcoming Mindless Eating. We're going to offer that twice at 12 noon and 8 p.m. Terry Close is going to present that for us. She's based out of Alabama. And yours truly again at the end of September for Busting Up Sugarmas, the latest on insulin resistance and diabetes. That's always a good one, a good popular one. Lots of people on that one. So thanks for joining me today. Again, check us out on Twitter at TrueHealthDiag, Facebook.com TrueHealthDiagnostics, and we have a blog there, and we're also on Pinterest. So I didn't see a whole lot of questions today, so I'm going to wrap up. Had one question on what my thoughts are on the ketogenic diet. I haven't explored that one personally to much degree. I do like gluten-free, paleo, clean eating, more of that kind of lifestyle or diet, if you will. Ketogenic tends to be, it's very high fat, and you want to put the body in a state of ketosis. I don't necessarily think it's harmful at all. It can be complicated and hard to manage. And one of the health consultants and I were discussing it yesterday. We both had a similar case with patients that were on the ketogenic diet, lost weight, but their labs still looked pretty bad. So that was disappointing for them to see. So I don't think it's not safe. I think it's hard to manage, and the outcomes, at least in the biomarkers in the labs, in one instance with me, they didn't improve. So I hope that answers your question. I will be sending slides shortly and attaching the recording of this webinar to the link that you registered with. That should be up and running by Friday of this week. So we hope to see you soon. Thanks for joining us, and have a wonderful day.